Welcome, devotees, to the Gita class. We are reading from Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we're in the last chapter, which is the perfection of renunciation. And we'll do the auspicious prayers. Om Gyana Timarandasha Gana Gana Salakaya Chakshumalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swarupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaisnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parejana Sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Kṛṣṇa Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha E Kṛṣṇa Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwamano Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Praye Vanta Kalpis Rubius Char Kripa Sindhu Viebata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, 1848, the perfection of renunciation. Text 48. Saha-jaṁ karma kaunteya. sa-doṣam apina tyajet. sarva-ārambhāḥ doṣeṇa. dhūmenāgnir ivāvṛtāḥ. Word for word, saha-jaṁ. Born simultaneously. Karma, work. Kaunteya, O son of Kuntī. Sa-doṣam, with fault. Api, although. Na, never. Tyajet, one should give up. Sarva-ārambhāḥ, all ventures. He, certainly. doṣeṇa, with fault. dhūmena, with smoke. agniḥ, fire. Eva, as. āvṛtāḥ, covered. Purport and translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kuntī, even if such work is full of fault. Please repeat. Every endeavor is covered by some fault.
Every endeavor is covered by some fault.
Just as fire is covered by smoke.
Just as fire is covered by smoke.
Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kuntī, even if such work is full of fault. In conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a brāhmaṇa, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a kṣatriya, however pious he may be, has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a sudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should not continue to despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature. A very nice example is given herein. Although fire is pure, still there is smoke. Yet smoke does not make the fire impure. Even though there is smoke in the fire, fire is still considered to be the purest of all elements. If one prefers to give up the work of a kṣatriya and take up the occupation of a brāhmaṇa, he is not assured that in the occupation of a brāhmaṇa there are no unpleasant duties. One may then conclude that in the material world, no one can be completely free from the contamination of material nature. This example of fire and smoke is very appropriate in this connection. When in winter time one takes a stone from the fire, sometimes smoke disturbs the eyes and other parts of the body, but still one must make use of the fire despite disturbing conditions. Similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. That is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the results of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self-realization. So first I thought I'd like to start by actually talking about, beginning to talk about what really, about the definitions of renunciation. And so first I'll read from 6.1, the beginning of 6.1, when Kṛṣṇa says, the Supreme Person of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is a true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. And from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:13, unless one is convinced of a better life after renunciation of the present material life, one cannot stick to the renounced order of life simply by artificial dress or staying out of home. So it doesn't mean that everyone who's aspiring to be a devotee and is in Kṛṣṇa consciousness cannot be renounced. Everyone can be renounced. It doesn't matter which ashram you're in, whether you're dressed in orange or whether you're a householder, you can practice renunciation. Renunciation means renouncing one's dependence on the conditions of material nature, and thus being completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. So when I was reading this, I remember the story of some events that happened in a movement when devotees like, I think it was Vishnujan Swami and Brahmananda, and I don't remember the other person, but there was some controversy, and so they had to, Prabhupada told them to go, So what they did was they just went. They didn't have anything but the clothes on their back, and they left, and they were just wandering around the U.S., but as they did that, everything began to come to them anyway. They didn't starve, people would give them food and they were preaching, so they just followed Prabhupada's order, went without anything, no attachments, no clothes, just what they had. followed his instructions, and became successful in preaching and were totally taken care of. And that has been my experience as well. Going to dhūmenāgnir, and my Guru Maharaj told me, don't expect anything from the temple, because at that time dhūmenāgnir was in, like financial difficulty, and they just were barely paying the bills. So what to speak of giving anything? But my experience was that Kṛṣṇa takes care. He takes care of everyone. We don't have to worry. We just have to have the faith that Kṛṣṇa is my protector, my maintainer, my well-wisher. Everything. He's our everything. So he will take care. No difficulty. We just have to have that faith. So, and Lord Chaitanya says also in terms of renunciation, na danam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam, va jagad isha kamaye. You all know that. You can say it with me if you want. Mama janme janme ishvare, vavita bhaktir ahitu kitwayo. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women or men. I put the men in there. Nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service. So I just wanted to, just give some, like beginning about this perfection, this renunciation. What does it actually mean? Because sometimes devotees may think, well, because I'm married, I can't be renounced, or whatever ashram I'm in, I can't be renounced. So also what I want to do is, because I haven't also been coming to the classes regularly, I wanted to go from the beginning of the chapter, because this is the last chapter. And I just wanted to review what has been discussed in the chapter, so anyone who hasn't come since chapter began, we can just get an idea of what's in the chapter, what's being covered, what's being talked about, and how we got to this point of talking about, because this section we're in text 41 through 48 actually talk about varnashram dharma. And we know that Srila Prabhupada, as was discussed this morning in the Mother Daivi Shakti, said Prabhupada talked about, he wanted to go to dhūmenāgnir. He wanted to show them how to do varnashram dharma. I'm not going to get into a big discussion about varnashram dharma because it's a big topic, and if you've been in ISKCON long enough, you know that topic has been around forever, and there's been seminars and talks about what actually is varnashram dharma and how can it actually be implemented in ISKCON. So if someone else wants to start a seminar on that subject, because it's not really happening, So, and there's been a lot of discussions, but no, actually solid foundation for actually following varnashram dharma. Although we have the divisions, and we need to discuss exactly what does it mean. So I wanted to start, I'll start with, first of all, Arjuna's question. At the beginning, what he asked was, he wanted to understand the purpose of renunciation. Tyaga, that's renunciation. And he wanted to know about, the renounced order of life, sannyas, So, so he was inquiring, and that's the first question. And then in verses 2 through 6, tyaga is discussed, which means, can someone tell me what, because we're all reading the Gita, so tyaga means what?
Giving up the results of one's activities.
Thank you, giving up the results of all activities. And then sannyas means? Yes, giving up the activities based on material desires. They've given up all material desires, and they've given their life to just serving Kṛṣṇa, being 100% involved in his service, preaching, bringing people to Kṛṣṇa consciousness and helping them to grow in their spiritual life. That's what they do. And Prabhupada used to, when he left his family, he used to say, all of these disciples were his children now. He had given up his family, but now he had so many children. So he considered them his children, which is what Kṛṣṇa considers us all his children. It's the same. So then, so that's 2 through 6. Then in 7 through 9, there's a discussion. Kṛṣṇa discusses renunciation in the 3 modes. So we all know that every living entity, every jiva is controlled by the 3 modes of material nature. And all of that is discussed in detail in the Bhagavad Gita. What it means to be in any of the modes and what mode we should actually try to reach. So, so that's renunciation. So that's tyaga in the 3 modes. And then 10 through 12 verses discuss the wise and the true renunciate. So the wise and the true renunciate, they renounce the fruits of their activities. They're not attached. Because sometimes we can be attached, or we can, think we're the proprietor of everything. I know I had that problem when I was doing my service. I was proprietorship of the deities, So I got cured of that really quickly. So then, what are the results of not renouncing? That's also covered in 10 to 12. So then your fruits of action, then you get the fruits of your action. And there are 3 kinds, either desirable, undesirable, or mixed. And then what happens with this fruit of action that you're attached to? What does it mean? It means they accrue after death. So if you have those fruits and you want to come back, and you have to come back and enjoy those fruits because that's what you wanted. So, you come back and...
Can you explain, please, with an example, this point? With an example?
You mean like...
In our lives?
Well, okay, if you have like some kind of, material desire, because, like sometimes people go to in front of the deities and they offer something, but it's not pure. They want something. You give money and you want something from it. Maybe you want a good husband, or you want your daughter to, have a good material. It's a desire. Because the fruits of actions are material desire, or else you wouldn't have to come back. Your desires have to be pure in order to, be in the spiritual world. Your desires should be just to please Kṛṣṇa only, not for myself, not any pleasure for me. Because we know when we give to Kṛṣṇa, we become happy. That's our natural propensity. That's why we are encouraged, to take on our eternal dharma, which is servant. And to please Kṛṣṇa, naturally you get pleased. I think we've all had that experience. You do something for Kṛṣṇa and you feel very happy, because then it means Kṛṣṇa's happy. Or you offer something to Kṛṣṇa like prasadam and it tastes so nice and you just know Kṛṣṇa ate this one. Do you know what I'm saying? You have that experience. You can, you're satisfied within. You feel very satisfied. And then you think, oh, Kṛṣṇa was satisfied. So I'm satisfied because Kṛṣṇa was satisfied. No? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So then, in verses 13 through 15, discusses the causes of right actions and wrong actions. And so we have, and involved in these actions and wrong actions, we have the body, and then we have the doer. Then we have the senses. All these are engaged in the actions. And then we have the effort, and then the super soul who is directing. Because when we have material desires and we come back here, the super soul knows what your desires are. So if you have a desire in one life and you go into the next life, then he helps you remember what you wanted. What was your material desire? What did you want? So he helps you remember that because you wanted, you know. So he helps you remember. And then in chapters 16 through 17, discusses doership and non-doership. And I'm just giving a brief, we can read it, but before you came in, I was saying that I'm just going to give a brief, because my verse is 1848, so I'm trying to get to 1848, but I'm just giving, you know, like all of us weren't here for the whole thing, for the whole chapter, neither was I. So for me, it's good as well, because it refreshes me on what this chapter was about. Because the only thing I really remember, which sticks with me about this chapter, is the last purport. Well, next to the last purport, I don't remember which number it was, but the one about when there is Arjuna and Kṛṣṇa, there is power and victory. You remember that one? Yeah. That's the most beautiful one, and I always remember that one. I may not remember everything in the chapter, but that one really sticks with me because it's very encouraging. Okay, so back to, in verses 16 through 17, as I was saying, is doership and non-doership. So the doership, the one who thinks he's the doer, is not very intelligent. That's what's said in these verses. That's what Kṛṣṇa says. If they think they're the doer, they're not very intelligent. They think they're the ones that are doing everything. Because we don't even own our own bodies, what to speak of being the doer. We just are sitting in this vehicle as the soul, and the body is doing. And the deities, the demigods, are controlling every aspect of our body. And then non-doership. That means the mentality is not motivated by the false ego, because this is also a huge problem. The last one, that's the thickest of the coverings of the universe. The false ego is the thickest one to pass through, because we're all in the false ego thinking. That's why we think I'm the doer, because we have a false ego, not the real self. We don't know who the real ego is, but we think I am me. It's me. I'm doing. This is mine. That's mine. I'm doing this. You know, sometimes you see, you know, we can get positions and we just think, I'm the one doing this. You know, I'm taking the credit. We can't take credit for anything. You know, I mean, we're getting the mercy from our spiritual master. And everything we receive, anything we get, we have to give it back to him, because he's the one who gave us this process and pulled us out of the material energy and was bringing us to Kṛṣṇa. I was thinking about one time when my Gurudev took us to New Vrindavan. And I don't know if anybody's ever been to New Vrindavan. It's a farm community in the US. It's in West Virginia. And they have this the devotees early on in the movement built the gold palace, and it's so beautiful. And when you go in there, you can just, because those devotees were inexperienced, they were like Mother Davi Shakti was saying this morning, they were just hippies. They were all like just space cadets, you know. But this golden palace is so beautiful, and it's full of love. And so many things happen in New Vrindavan which were not very Kṛṣṇa conscious, but anytime you see that gold palace, you can take the positive out of whatever happened and see the love that was, there's like beautiful glass, beautiful chandeliers, so much color and peacocks and rose garden. It's just so beautiful. And I was saying that to say, oh, so my Guru Maharaj took us there. This was when I first joined, after he initiated me, and he took us all there, those who had initiated, and we were dancing in front of Srila Prabhupada. And as we were dancing, I got the realization that my Guru Maharaj is presenting us before Srila Prabhupada. He was giving back. He wasn't saying, these are my disciples. He was showing Srila Prabhupada the fruits of his actions. He said, he was saying in the way of course he was dancing back and forth, and he was showing us, Srila Prabhupada, this is for you, So we have to give everything. Even if someone gives us obeisances or whatever, we have to mentally offer it to our spiritual master, because we haven't earned any of it, If they hadn't come in and get us, where would we be? So how can we be the doer? We can't be the doer. And actually, I was trying to remember this Bhagavad Gita verse, but I forgot to write it down, nor did I know. But I was thinking of, how do you recognize someone who is actually in the renounced order of life? But this verse says, how does he walk? How does he talk? Does anybody remember what that verse was? No.
How is the person who is situated in transcendence?
How does he walk? How does he talk? Yes. Yes, that's another beautiful one. That's really beautiful. Because when I first went to the Bhakti Sastri course, and we had to have the test afterwards, I was really like trying to break my brain, trying to figure out what did that mean, Even though I had read it, I'm sorry? Sthiti. Thank you. Okay, so I said it was going to be brief. So this is 16 through 17. We'll get to mine in a minute. Okay, and then verse 18 through 19 in this chapter talks about the three motivators and the three constituents of action. So the three motivators of action are knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. And then constituents of action are the senses, the work, and the doer. And in that 18 through 19, there's a discussion by Kṛṣṇa of the three modes, and he talks about the three kinds of knowledge, action, and the performing action. Because as I said previously, we are all controlled by the three modes of material nature. So in the description, we know throughout the Bhagavad Gita, or at least in some of the chapters, like, is it 14? We talk about, the three modes and how they affect, the jiva. So in verses 20 through 22, knowledge is described in the three modes. In verses 23 through 25, work, karma, is described in the three modes. In verses 26 through 28, the worker, the Karta, the doer, is in the three modes, described how it's in the three modes. And 29 through 32, your intelligence or understanding is described in the three modes. And also determination is described in the three modes, also in 33 through 35. And then in verses 36 through 40, happiness, sukham, is described in the three modes. What makes a person happy? We know that maybe somebody in the mode of ignorance, drinking will make them happy. You know, they think they're happy. So that's the mode of ignorance. So what is it, you know, that makes you happy? How you get happy? So then we come closer to my verse. In 41 through 44 and 45 through 48, there's this discussion by Kṛṣṇa about the four social orders, the varnas, and their qualities. And then, getting to mine, 45 through 48, the importance to sticking to one's prescribed duty. And it made me think of when, this is my experiences, that's how I get these realizations, when I was, of course, I'm neophyte now, but I was more neophyte then. And when I went to dhūmenāgnir, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be doing, you know. So then I found out they wanted to train me as pujari. But I was always thinking, but nobody asked me what I wanted to do. Why are they thinking I want to be a pujari? You know, that was my mentality. I was like, but nobody asked me. You know, but my Guru Maharaj saw my propensities, and I had been around him for 2 years, so he had already noticed what he thought I should be doing. And of course he was right, but I was independent, thinking, you know, like, least they could do is just ask me what I want to do here, you know. So it's and we can see that growing in Kṛṣṇa consciousness and maturing in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is a long process, you know. But Kṛṣṇa is so kind, and the spiritual master is so kind. He tolerates your nonsense, and in the same vein, he helps you grow, you know, through Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So, one other thing I meant to go back to the varnashram. This system is, in 413, the varnashram is according to the three gunas and the work associated with them. The four divisions of human society are created by me, so we should know that this system is pleasing to Kṛṣṇa. And it's not the same as the caste system. There's a difference. The caste system, which is in India, is more about exploitation and a desire to maintain the status quo. I'm a brāhmaṇa and you're a whatever, you know, street sweeper or whatever, you know. And not seeing the soul in every living entity. But the divine varnashram, the divine division, is mutual support and service. And it allows, you know, an upward and downward mobility. And it's a basis for categorizing diversity in the society, because we know now the society is being run by lower than sudras, you know. In fact, you know, all sudras, you can see, they don't know what to do. Everything they're doing is quite stupid. Because, you know, first of all, they're not recognized, the proprietor of everything was Kṛṣṇa. They're not recognizing that. They're thinking, as we were talking about, that they're doing everything. And they're putting the praja that they're supposed to be in charge of in extreme difficulties. So they have no qualities to know anything. And it's all about greed. It's all about what can I get, what can I get, what can I get? How much can I get? How much more can I get? How can I crush the spirit of the people? You know, but when we read the scriptures, we see, you know, that the person who has those qualities of a king, who's a kṣatriya, who takes advice from the brāhmanas. Nobody wants to take advice. They're always fighting. You can't tell me what to do. You know? So we see that the whole world is in a mess because of this mentality of I'm the doer and I'm the taker, and I'm not giving anything, and I'm not sharing anything, nor am I taking care of anybody, because I don't care about anybody else. Yeah, so, you know, so we see demons, suduras, the lowest of mankind, as Srila Prabhupada would say. You know, so it just puts the world in difficulty. So we know in difficult times we just take shelter of Kṛṣṇa. We fall at his lotus feet. And we chant his holy names. And we surrender our all, because he's going to take care of everything. Whether we stay in the body or not stay in the body, doesn't matter. He's interested in saving our soul so we can come home back to Godhead. And we also know the discussion between Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was trying to bring Ramananda Rai up to the highest point, and Ramananda had mentioned varnashram. You know. But then Lord Chaitanya said, well, varnashram is basically just built on moral and ethical principles. You have to get the people at least into varnashram so they can, you know, like at least have an opportunity to climb the yoga ladder. You know, at least bring them there. And Prabhupada, that's why Prabhupada wanted the farms. You know. So, and then I wanted to go back to talk about Arjuna and his question and his, we know that in the beginning of the chapter, of the beginning of the Gita, when Arjuna was on the mental platform about performing his duty, he said, oh, I'm just gonna renounce. I don't wanna do this. I mean, he gave so many, you know, arguments. And then his solution for it was, I'm gonna just go to the forest and give up my duties because I can't really deal with this. But we know Arjuna was a warrior through and through. We can think about some of his characteristics. We know that when he was in school, several things happened that showed this was his natural proclivity to be a warrior. Like at night, he saw an owl who was hunting at night, and then he was thinking, well, if the owl can, you know, do his activity at night, then I should be able to. So he started practicing his archery at night. No. And also when everyone was called up by Dronacharya to say, okay, what did you see in the tree? And everyone was saying everything about the bird. I see the area, I see the tree, I see this, I see that. But nobody was like Arjuna, who just said, I just see just the eye of the bird. He was totally like focused, you know. So he had the characteristics, you know, of a kṣatriya. So for him going into the forest, what would that, you know, that wouldn't help him at all. And that's not Kṛṣṇa, what Kṛṣṇa wanted him to do. He should do his duty. So this is 47 and 48, what they're talking about. Just do your duty. Sometimes we think, oh, I need to do this, I want to do this. We always think the grass is greener somewhere else. But this one says, this purport says, there's difficulty in everything. You may, you know, it's like, just some mundane example, like say we're having difficulties where we're living. There's so many maintenance problems and this and that. And then we think, oh, I'll just move to another place. But then, you know, there's going to be problems there as well. there's going to be problems. We're living in the material world, so there's going to be difficulties. So might as well stay where you are, deal with the problems you know are there. At least you're familiar with it, and just deal with them. Because you can't move anywhere else and not have problems. There's going to be difficulties. And of course there's going to be difficulties in whatever we do. That's what it's saying here. Where am I? Kṛṣṇa. 48. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give of the work born of his nature, even if such work is full of fault. And another realization I had while I was doing my service, because I'm a perfectionist, everything has to be like just right. But I realized that that's not possible, because I'm an imperfect being. And if I was perfect, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in the material world. You know, I would be back home with Kṛṣṇa, because there everything is perfect. But when I used to address the deities, I would be like, oh, this has to be, this was like so focused on everything being just not one iota out of place. But then afterwards I would come on and I would say, oh no, this is shifted, or that's shifted, or something happened, you know, that. So then I said, well, stop being a perfectionist. My Guru Maharaj would say, just do your best. Your best is all you have. And just give your best. Kṛṣṇa knows your heart. Kṛṣṇa knows what you want to offer. You know? So like that, don't try to be a perfectionist, because the only perfect being is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he is the perfect renunciate. He can have 16,000 wives, no problem. He can be insulted 100 times. If somebody insults us once, we're like, what? You know, what did you say? You know, but Kṛṣṇa was like, told Balaram, just chill, let him say whatever he wants, it's okay. You know, I got his program. I got his program for him, so don't worry about it, you know. So who can be a better renouncer than Kṛṣṇa? Nobody. I wanted to talk too about another personality who was supposed to be one thing, but was doing something else, is Dronacharya. Because Dronacharya was a Brahmin, but he took the role of a kṣatriya. And I was reading that he wasn't satisfied being a Brahmana. He wanted to be a kṣatriya. And he also wanted wealth. He went to Parashuram to ask for wealth. But by the time he got to Parashuram, because we only hear when he asked for from Drupad, but the first person he went to was Parashuram. He wanted Parashuram, because he heard that Parashuram was giving away wealth. Now, you know, a Brahmana is supposed to be peaceful, steady, satisfied with whatever he gets, you know, not desiring wealth. Whatever comes to him, he's satisfied. That's a Brahmana. But Dronacharya wasn't satisfied. So he went to, but by the time he got there, Parashuram had already distributed all his wealth. So what he only had left was his astras, his mantras, and celestial weapons. So he gave those to Dronacharya. But so he wasn't really satisfied, you know, with what he had. So we should be satisfied with what is given to us by Kṛṣṇa, and be happy in all circumstances, and know that Kṛṣṇa has all the opulences And our opulence is the fact that we have his holy name to chant. That's our opulence. It's the most pious activity, chanting the holy name, because no one is actually doing it, you know. I'll end the class here, open for any questions or comments or discussions or criticisms. I'll take.
I have a question. I've always wondered about it. So, this is unrelated to the class that you just took.
It's unrelated, okay. We'll see what happens.
But it's still a valid question.
Okay, I didn't say it wasn't valid.
Like, persons like Guru Dronacharya,
Yeah,
Bhishma Pitama, they were very learned people.
very learned, very highly qualified, yes.
Good, the bad,
Yes,
they had an understanding of God.
yes,
Obviously, you said that they were unsatisfied.
yes.
What I never understood through the whole Mahabharata is that when they were trying to take the sari of Draupadi, why didn't these good men stop, the Kauravas from doing it? Because they should have stopped. When they were trying to disrobe Draupadi, which is the biggest sin of all,
Yes.
why did not...
Anyone can jump in and help him with the answer about why those men. I know about Bhishma. Well, one thing that I can think of is that they were all on Duryodhana's payroll. Money is a big thing.
But is it so big that you will actually commit a crime?
Sure. I guess so, because nobody said anything. They let Duryodhana get away with everything. Nobody stopped them. Even his father.
He was blind.
He was blind by knowledge because he...
Or the love of his son.
Yes, he was.
His interest was to get the kingdom.
Yes, he was spiritually blind and he was physically blind.
I never understood, Guru Dronacharya, because in history his name is taken with a lot of respect.
Well, one thing is that we should look at that everything was Kṛṣṇa's arrangement. Everything. He had a plan. Kṛṣṇa's plan was going to go through. He wanted, the Pandavas to be on the throne with no, challengers. So everything was in Kṛṣṇa's plan, and we can't question his plan. But because they were all on payroll, and Duryodhana even challenged Kṛṣṇa, what to speak of anybody else speaking up. He was going to arrest Kṛṣṇa right in court. He was saying he would have killed them if they had stood up, because one of his brothers, stood up to say something. I think you remember that, right, in the Mahabharata. And Duryodhana was on his case like white on rice. Calling him a traitor and telling you, sit down. Don't, interfere with what I'm trying to plan here. His brother was trying to, I think it was his half-brother, because I think Dhritarashtra had a child by one of his maidservants. And I think that was the person. So, no, it wasn't Vidura, it was, no, he was the brother of Dhritarashtra. We're talking about Duryodhana's, one of his brothers, half-brother. And also in terms of Bhishma was also on the payroll, and Bhishma, what I've heard in class is, I don't think Duryodhana offered whatever he ate. And everyone was eating unoffered food, so where is their consciousness?
Bhishma was supposed to, he would protect the kingdom.
Yes.
Whoever is king, it doesn't matter.
Yes, he had made, yes.
In favor of that.
Yes. So he didn't want, he was,
Taking that side.
yeah, he was just had to protect,
But he knew that he was doing wrong.
yes.
He probably knew.
He knew probably.
Yeah, he knew it was wrong. But then also there's a lesson for Draupadi, that I cannot protect myself. It's a lesson for all of us. I can try, But unless I raise my hands to Kṛṣṇa, unless I,
Kṛṣṇa was waiting for Kṛṣṇa.
yes, waiting, because I heard, this is a nice story, that Kṛṣṇa knew that Draupadi was in trouble, and he was sitting with Rukmini, and Draupadi was calling, and Rukmini was saying, why are you not going? You hear your devotee is in trouble. But then Kṛṣṇa said, she's not calling me. She's not calling my name. And even for the gambling match, none of the Pandavas called Kṛṣṇa. He didn't even know it was going on. I mean, he knew it was going on, but he didn't know it was going on. You know what I mean?
They were committing sin as well, like gambling.
Yes, well, yes, but still.
Themselves, they try to do
First of
themselves.
all, over this question, right? He's saying only questioning Dronacharya and Vishnu.
Yeah,
Why they didn't speak?
yeah,
So to understand Srimad, like Srimad Mahabharata, like first one has to understand that we say the principle and the Kṛṣṇa consciousness. If somebody will be on Kṛṣṇa consciousness, then he can understand Mahabharata, otherwise he will be revealed about it.
Yes, yes.
mm,
They will question this, they will question that, they will
yes,
First of all, as Bhatari told him, from the perspective of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, this is plan of Kṛṣṇa.
it's just Kṛṣṇa.
No matter you are a Bhishmacharya or Bhishma or Dronacharya, if you are not surrendered to me, then you will fail.
Yes, and all those persons on the battlefield
Very good.
saw Kṛṣṇa in person, so,
Kṛṣṇa was the Dharma.
Yeah.
He came for the re-establishing the
The
religion.
Pandavas didn't go to hell. Why?
There was
You
a-
gave
Go
the
to-
you gave the right answer.
didn't,
They were not in
Why
position.
didn't they come forward to save her clothes?
oh, we were just saying that because,
Pandavas
oh, the Pandavas,
Right answer.
because they were in ignorant, I mean, she's asking, let's get the everybody
now
involved.
that it's asked or not,
Yeah.
otherwise,
Why the Pandavas didn't come? Because Yudhisthira told, they can't move until Yudhisthira says something. He's the oldest. And he was always telling them, when they wanted to get up, Bhima would have done it. But Yudhisthira was the oldest, and there was respect for him as the one who's in charge of them. You know, he's the oldest, so they follow. So Yudhisthira wasn't saying anything or doing anything. He's there busy gambling. So, and nor did anyone of them say when she was dragged into the court. You know, so they can't do anything if Yudhisthira doesn't do anything, unless he says. They only take instruction from him, and he's gambling.
and when you're doing something against dharma, your brains don't
Function.
function. So that's why he.
Anyway, it's all Krishna's plan, and they were all great devotees. But Kṛṣṇa had a plan, and his plan wins all the time.
I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you for the class, Mataji. Mataji, I'm actually thinking about this word own nature many times. Like, as you know, in the previous shlokas also, this nature word is always there. So in many classes, it's been said that the spiritual master will tell your nature, what your nature is. So Mataji, those who do not have spiritual master, how they will know what their nature is and what they should do and
Get a spiritual master.
what to do like, in this situation.
Yes, aspire for a spiritual master. You're chanting, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada is our.
Yes.
So like, should I ask him?
I mean, my understanding, and I can only go by my own example, is that I didn't know, what I was supposed to be doing. And I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing until I had a spiritual master. And now I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And we're all supposed to be servants of the Lord and serving the Lord. That is our eternal nature. That's what we should be doing. And to something specifically, when you take a spiritual master, then, or you can ask a senior devotee, another senior devotee, a Prabhupada disciple. Ask them. Take association take a higher association. Find someone who's, Find someone who's senior, really senior, you know, to help guide you. If you're not ready for, you know, like official initiation, then you can just have association of senior devotees. You're having, this room is full of them. Yes, Prabhu?
We are speaking about Prabhupada, he left his family for higher purpose, sannyas.
Yes.
So leaving one family and getting another family, so can you explain something about that one? Leaving his own family and making another family. So what is the difference? Can you say something on that one?
Well, the family for the sannyas is the whole world. The family for, you know, a family person is mostly their family. But the sannyas family is the whole world. That's the difference.
So once a person leaves his family and he creates another family in the spiritual world, that is allowed?
You mean, I'm not understanding, in the spiritual world or here in this material world when they're trying to preach?
Yeah, when you're in the material world, when you're trying to preach.
Yes, he has a family. He's preaching to everyone. He's seeing everyone. He's seeing the soul in everyone. He's seeing everyone as Kṛṣṇa's property. He's seeing everyone as a living entity. They're all Kṛṣṇa's children. Everybody who's here, everyone is Kṛṣṇa's children. So the sannyasi, the renunciant is seeing that. If he had not renounced, where would we be? If Prabhupada hadn't renounced, where would we be? If he hadn't left his family, where would we be?
So he did not think his family is Kṛṣṇa's.
Well, the arrangement was by his spiritual master. His spiritual master, he had a dream. His spiritual master told him, take sannyas. And Srila Prabhupada was horrified. Take sannyas. He didn't want to. But his spiritual master came to him twice in a dream and told him, take sannyas. Go preach. Save the world. Print books. That was more important. Okay? Okay.
And his wife sold his books for buying tea.
Yeah, but I don't think he was really looking at that so much. He was just hearing his spiritual master's voice. You know, the faults he wasn't talking about so much. He said his spiritual master is the one that told him to go out. Okay? Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.